Money Radio, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. It's time to talk about estate planning with Jim Knollmiller, certified tax specialist under the State Bar of Arizona from the firm of Knollmiller and Aronofsky. And if you'd like to find out more, you can visit the website aboutestateplanning.com, aboutestateplanning.com, or call 480-345-0444. That's 480-345-0444. Jim Knollmiller. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sinclair.
Good to see you again. There are a lot of terms that come up in estate planning. A lot of them are almost self-explanatory, but they can get a little bit complicated. There's one in particular, a spendthrift trust or a spendthrift clause. And you hear that spendthrift and automatically you think of probably an adult child who just doesn't know how to handle money at all. And if you leave them anything, they're just going to spend right through it. We get the basic idea. And probably there's somebody like that in almost every family. But beyond that, how do you actually make it to where you can pass some money on to someone and make sure they don't just blow it?
Sinclair, one of the things you do is you set up a trust for them. And that trust is what we call a discretionary income trust, but it also has special language that the courts recognize we call spendthrift language. And it basically, in very simple terms, says that the beneficiary cannot take this money and give it to somebody else or take it out of the trust or transfer it to somebody during the lifetime unless you provide some mechanism in the trust that says they can take a certain amount of money out. They just can't walk into the trustee and say, give me all the money.
So there is still a trustee that controls the money or assets, whatever it may be, not the spendthrift son or daughter. They don't have control over that.
You can set it up where actually the person who administers the trust is also the beneficiary. Now, if you're concerned that that person is going to be a little bit foolish with their money, you obviously want to put someone else in there to overlook this.
Right.
But in most normal situations, the spendthrift provision is not so much where the individual is going to waste the money. It's to protect that individual from, we call predators or creditors, either way.
So, credit card company, a bankruptcy, a divorce can be situations where someone might go after those assets, and you can protect that?
That's correct. This is what most of the trusts that we set up for clients' children or beneficiaries. And we set up a discretionary trust that has the spendthrift provisions in it so that under certain circumstances, for example, if you're the client's threatened with bankruptcy, well, then it triggers automatically a trustee to come in there and says, we're not going to distribute any more money to that individual. Why distribute it to him when it's all going to go to the bankruptcy court? Or when they're facing a bad marriage and they're divorced, why distribute a lot of assets to them so that their soon-to-be ex-spouse can get it all? There are many reasons why you would trigger on certain events where you would want to stop the flow of money to go to a beneficiary because it's not really going to help the beneficiary. It's the type of trust that you create for someone else. You don't create it for yourself, you're creating for a child. And then upon your death, what you were going to leave to that child, say you're going to leave them all of your assets. Well, instead of going direct to that child, it goes into the spendthrift trust. Then the child still gets the benefits from it. You can get the income, you can make provisions for distribution of principal if they need it, you can make all sorts of liberal designation for the beneficiary to get something out of the trust, but at the same time, you can put provisions in there that will protect them from, as I say, these predators.
What about a situation where you want to pass it to an adult child and there may be grandchildren through that adult child as well, and you want to make sure that whatever goes to the adult child eventually works its way down to the grandchildren as well?
Sinclair, that's probably the 99% or 98% of these trusts we do. People want to keep their property, what we call in the bloodline. In other words, you want it to go to your child. Upon your child's death, you want it to go to your grandchildren. You don't want it to go to that child's spouse or friend or neighbor. You want it to stay within the family. And so you can put provisions in the trust that say, okay, child, you can only leave the property at your death to, and then you name a very limited group or a very broad group of people.
Mm-hmm. And then when it gets into situations where there may be a divorce in there, Do we have any special concerns about commingling of any funds?
Well, this is very important because if you leave that money, if you say you leave the money outright to your child, and as soon as they get that property, what do? They put it in joint tenancy with their spouse. And you've just automatically given half of it to that spouse. And upon divorce, they're going to walk away with this. I had a case where a woman had put her home in joint tenancy with her son, and her son was going to get a divorce. And now she had to actually pay off her ex-daughter-in-law to get back that house. So when you do that, people put things in titles that cause legal problems later on.
Yeah, that could be a real problem, couldn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, all of a sudden you're sharing a house guest with an ex-daughter-in-law. Yeah. If you have questions about estate planning, if you have something you'd like for us to address here on the program with Jim Knollmiller from the firm of Knollmiller and Aronofsky, just call and pose your question or an email. Go to the website aboutestateplanning.com, aboutestateplanning.com, and drop us a little note, and we'll try and cover it here on the program. Or if you have a question and you'd like to talk about it directly with Jim Knollmiller, 480-345-0444. That's 480-345-0444. And the website is aboutestateplanning.com. That'll get you through to Knollmiller and Aronofsky, aboutestateplanning.com. Jim Knollmiller, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sinclair.